shoulder. Fall into a hole. If I'm here, I like to go to where just like Colombians are, you know? I love it. More of the culture.
What is the best thing about Colombia so far, living in Cali?
Just the freedom. The freedom this country gives you. People say that like you go to the States and it's the land of the free. I think in the States you might feel safe, but you don't feel free, that's for sure. Here you can feel free. You might not feel so safe all the time, but it's definitely, you get to be more of yourself. And obviously the climate is amazing. I think half of happiness is just being in the right climate. Just being in the right temperature. 80 degrees every day. It's good stuff. I love birds. Entra. Go ahead, dude.
Okay, Nate, let's try this and see how it works. Just try testing.
Okay.
1, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2. Test. 1, 2, 3.
I think that's really good.
And then Steve, if you could get a photo that's really got quite a bit, yeah, not just
perspective of where you are.
Just kind of everything, yeah, because I need big wide photos for the certain sections on the site. So
Do we need to get this set up in any way?
let me see it.
I mean, the one we're going to do, we're going to be in a studio downstairs, yes?
Should be right around there. Okay. Listo.
Okay, Nate. So who are you?
My name is Nate Bunger, and yeah, I live in Cali, Colombia.
What made you come to Colombia?
So in 2009, I was living in the United States and had a business there, and it was kind of at the that turn of when the economy was going down, you know, and Obama was coming into the office, and it seemed like the whole world was ending. And I was about 29 years old, and I was just at a point in my life where I didn't see what was coming next in my life. I had business through all my 20s, and my entire focus throughout my later teens and 20s was really to like become this millionaire and live the American dream and develop property and have businesses and this cash flow to make me free. It's like the theme of the kind of the 2000s, the rich dad poor dad thing, and buy properties and rent them out so you can be free. And that was just like that was my entire focus. And so that's pretty much what I did. And my entire life consisted of working for some time in the future. That was pretty much what my entire life consisted of. I was literally never, looking back, I always remember I was never ever in the present moment. It was always like, one day I'll be able to enjoy this moment, like there would be things going on and really cool situations like, oh, this is cool, but you know what, I'm gonna go and focus on work again and these other things so that one day I can really enjoy this moment, And that was, I remember pretty much the thinking of all my 20s was one day, just always like this vision of when I would be in my 30s and one day be traveling and things like that. And in one sense, it's interesting because that is kind of what happened. Eventually that did become my life, and I'll get to that. But it really happened when I made that switch in my thinking, when I stopped thinking about what was coming tomorrow and I started thinking about living my life today.
How old were you then?
So when that switch started happening, it was between 28 and 29. And like I said, there was just like some massive shifts going on in the United States. Everything I ever knew how to do was building houses and construction, and that business model of what I was doing literally was coming to an end. You know, it no longer exists. Banks weren't even lending money. I remember after, you know, I had loans for like houses and businesses and things like that, and after that economy, you know, crash happened, I remember going in to try and get a loan for put a laptop on my credit card, and I got denied. And I had perfect credit. It was like over 800, which is like, you know, I think in the States the top you can get is 850 or something. Here I was with like 800 and something credit score, money in the bank, and I just, you know, there was some offer, I remember at Best Buy or something for a, you know, you could get 6 months, same as cash or something. I tried it, and I got denied. And I remember kind of in that moment thinking like everything I knew how to do, you know, as far as what I'd learned, like building houses and using banks' money to buy property, like no longer existed. And here I was, I had no degree, I had dropped out of high school, and so that was literally all I knew how to do, you know. And fortunately at the time I did have, you know, some assets and things like that, and long story short, ended up basically selling everything, and started to embrace this idea of just letting go and living the dream I had always had of world travel, right? To travel the world and see everything. It felt literally like the world was ending at that time. If a lot of people can think back and really bring themselves back to that 2008, 2009, it just seemed like we were, nothing that we knew, everything that we knew was never going to be the same again, if that makes sense. And so when I left, that was kind of my mindset, like, in fact, we were leading up to like the 2012 when there's all that score, the world was actually going to end. I remember a lot of people were thinking that, and so it really felt like an end of a time was among us, and I really think it was. You know, I never really thought the end of the world was actually coming, but from different spiritual people that I talked to and read about, you know, they definitely talked about the end of a time, an end of a cycle, and I think, you know, that was definitely kind of happening through me at that time. And so
what made you choose Cali out of all places?
Okay, so after traveling for about a year actually throughout South America, just totally letting go, I had no plan. I literally, in fact, my plane was supposed to arrive in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and it had a connection in Lima, Peru. And I ended up getting off the plane random, just grabbed my bag and got off. There was a connecting flight, it was like a 12-hour layover. And I just let go, and for a year I just kind of let this like energy take me through South America, and I'd never in my life felt more alive. It was almost like I was a kid again. I remember really a distinct feeling of just life, like in me, like I had forgotten what it was to be alive, and just like that, almost like waking up and wanting to pinch myself in the morning. I would be in some weird hostel or some situation, maybe even waking up on a couch somewhere, I don't know, just, you know, and just surreal, just this surreal experience, like this is what it is to be alive, you know, and realizing it didn't take money to do it. Anyways, so after traveling, I kept hearing actually about Colombia through all of my traveling. I had met Colombians, and travelers that I had come across kept talking about Colombia. And it just happened that this was actually one of the last places I would be going to. It's kind of my travel route was more of a counterclockwise pattern. And so it was like the top of the continent, and I was getting there basically. And so it was kind of the final destination, and I remember the very first week. You got room on there? Yeah? The very first week that I arrived, in fact, in Colombia, it was in Medellin. I remember that very first week going and basically asking for directions. I remember very distinctly. And 2 times in that week, someone had actually put me on the back of their motorcycle and took me to my destination. And that had never in my life happened. No, in all my travels, no one had ever done that. And it happened again, like in the same week, somebody did the same thing. Oh, get on my bike, you know, gave me his helmet, and he literally drove me to where I was going. And I could just feel that there was something about Colombia, especially back then when I arrived, that they were just going through this transformation, that they have had this, you know, really bad image for the last few decades, and you could just get this sense like they knew they were going through a change, and the people that were there knew they were going through change, that there was just like this new Colombia was being born, and it was very strong. Regarding like the beauty of the country, it's just like the Garden of Eden everywhere you go. You know, it's just perfect weather. You know, the people are beautiful. It's just, I think what I felt more than anything, I like to kind of compare it, I guess, in my own mind to, you know, the life of a plant, for example. You know, if you give a plant plenty of sunshine and the right foods and everything, look at these plants, they're just green and healthy, you know? And that's kind of like being here in Colombia. That's what I feel like, looking at the humanity here, looking at the people. They're just like healthy plants, you know. They're just happy and healthy, and their bodies are formed correctly, and you know, it's just because of the place that we're at. You know, it has a lot to do with it's such a natural environment for a human actually to be happy in, to be very honest, just with the climate and the diet and things like that. And so, yeah, that feeling of aliveness continued here. And after living for a year or so in Medellin, I'm coming up to Cali, and here in Cali I just felt an energy that was just beyond anything, just this energy of dance. It's known as the salsa dancing capital of the world, and pretty much anywhere you go, you know, every night of the week you can find people dancing, and you know, there's just an amazing energy here. And so, yeah, when I felt that, it's just something that kept me here. In fact, for the first year of living in Cali, I kept asking myself, why am I here? I really couldn't figure it out. I really had no idea what the answer was. But here I am 4 years later, and it's the one place I feel like I'm still traveling. By living here, I still feel like there's so much that's undiscovered. You look at these mountains. I mean, there's just waterfalls all over these mountains. This is pristine jungle. It's ridiculous. You know, there's so many different, the south and the north are very different places, different cultures. There's a lot of new development happening in the south of the city that is more like kind of first world, which I really haven't discovered too much of to this point. So,
how old are you now?
So right now I'm 34. Left the United States when I was 29, and just that 5-year period of time, having been still considered a young man in my 20s, you know, I guess that 20, 29, you're still technically in your 20s, and you're 20-year-old, you know. I mean, that's kind of the mentality that you have, and I've noticed so many changes. Although it seems just like yesterday, and you hear that all the time, so cliche, but it's so true. You know, I look at photos, and I just like, it was just like I was just there, you know, having that experience or whatever. And in these last few years, kind of getting past 30, and you know, now 34 years old, starting to just awaken and feel, seeing the reality of life, that you're gonna get old, and you know, and I've got gray hairs coming in, and you know, and that's kind of the I feel like I am going through an awakening right now with that.
The word awakening seems to be quite important for you.
Yeah. So that's definitely something that's been top of mind these last few years. I feel like the entire process of awakening has been happening since this, you know, when I was 28, even before that, but it really started to kind of take me over at that time. And I think that was the beginning of this experience of awakening, was taking me through, and all these experiences. I mean, there's a lot we can go into with this, but life consciousness is trying to wake up, right? In humanity, in human beings. And it does it in a lot of different ways. And if you're not listening to it, if you're not letting go to what that life energy is trying to create through you, it will do it sometimes through hard impacts, through disease, or you know, really hardcore life challenges or financial situations. It'll give you hard knocks to really wake you up and make you aware of your situation. In the other sense of that, if you really let go, like I felt like I did when I was 29, and just finally just let go and start embracing the moment, it will start to create some very beautiful things in your life. It will start to create, you will start to experience feelings of life and things that you could never have imagined. The life I'm living now and everything that I experienced, I could have never thought in a million years, you know. And so people talk about like that you need to plan your future and you should write it down, and and visualize exactly what you want. In some regards, that's okay, you know, it kind of has its place, but coming from experience of what it's really like to embrace that energy that life is trying to create through you, there's no way you could ever know what that is, right? You just follow kind of that pull that it's pulling you. So, but again, so like the awakening in the last 5 years it's really about waking up to the reality of life. That is, you're gonna die. You're dying since the day you were born, right? And so many people live their lives feeling like they're gonna live forever, right? Especially in like first world, I think that's the mentality there. People aren't really aware of the fact that they're like getting older and aging, you know. In one hand they are, you know, maybe, but they don't really realize it until like 10 years has gone by and they finally like look in the mirror and they maybe in that moment they kind of awakened, you know, or maybe some kind of disease happened and they realize they're getting older. But a lot of people are just like stuck in this movie in their mind, right? And they keep putting things off for tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, and before you know it, they wake up and their 20s are gone and their 30s are gone and their 40s are gone, and all those dreams are no longer possible, you know. They could maybe do some of that stuff, but the things they had in their that they really you know had their heart's desire in their 20s and 30s, they're no longer possible, you know. They're no longer possible, and their life is winding down, you know. Their energy will never be the same. Their testosterone, their estrogen is lower than it's ever been, and it's going to go down every single year. It's been going down since 32. I'm 2 years now and kind of reaching that peak, and it's starting to go down. And so awakening is a lot of different things. It's becoming aware of that. Becoming aware you're just like an organism, a life organism, just like anything that has its lifespan, that is here, it's expanding, and it contracts, and that's the reality of life. Everything, you see it in everything. You see it in the growth of a flower that is beautiful, and then it starts its descent back to death and back to the earth, and then again it happens. You can see it in the universe. It's expanding, and science says that one day it'll reach a point where it actually it stops and starts to contract back in itself. You see it in your heart. Life is this energy that's doing this. And so this life right now, this consciousness, everything, it's expanding, but at some point it comes back down, right? And the peak of that is definitely through your 20s and your 30s, right? If you look at most of the biggest discoveries in life, in our history of humanity, most of the biggest discoveries happened when people were in their later 20s to their early 30s. Pretty much after 36, you don't see a lot. You still see some of it. You don't see a lot of people making big breakthroughs and things like that. You can see it over and over and over again. Look in the media. All the people that are in the media doing really big things, all the biggest artists, the biggest creators, they're right there in that phase right now. They're right there in that age, and you can, you know.
What about people that are a bit older?
So that's when, so it's very cool. And this is something I'm really passionate about. And I'm constantly, every time I see somebody that is doing something really interesting online, or you know, you catch them in the media, I always go look at their age. So I'm really interested in this. I'm finding it over and over and over again. And so what you'll find is people that are later in life, in their 40s and 50s, that are doing really amazing things, it's because they've been doing it their whole life. They've fucking mastered it. They are masters. Look at people like David Guetta. We were just listening to him. And so I was comparing, in fact, there was like a concert, his music to some of the other people that he was playing with, some of the younger talent, which was really creative. But his shit was like on another level. It was really, really beautiful, really on just every single note. But because he's been doing it for, you know, 30, 40 years, you know what I'm saying? Just like really mastered it. But if you think like you're gonna start, you know, in your 30s and 40s and have that same level of mastery when you're 50 and 60 and that level of creativity, you're just wrong. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. So yeah.